Hello, it's Beverly with the Intuitive Interior, and it's time for the July I Ching reading. So, the July month of the Yin Metal Goat technically goes from July 6th through August 6th. So, as I'm recording this on July 1st, we're still finishing up that Yang Metal Horse month. So that's why some of what I'm telling you is going to still feel a little like, eh. However, most people, especially if you're sensitive, you can start to feel that transition a few days before. So my guess is many of you will already be feeling the energy of the month of conflict. Yeah, just what we like having at the beginning of summer. Whew, the heat tends to bring a lot of hot tempers out anyway. But when you combine the yin metal with the goat energy, that combination yields the hexagram of number 6. So if you look at the bottom of this, you can see on the bottom here that is the kan trigram, that's water. And then on top of that is qian, which is yang metal. So when you have yang metal, like a container on there, and then you have, it's covering water, we have a lot of fire energy going on. And so that water likes to boil up. And, we've all heard the tea kettle scream when it's time for the water to be made into tea. So I want you to keep that idea in mind, that sometimes when things get really, really heated, take a time out, get a cup of tea, have yourself a little break. So the words on the card of conflict, first of all, for those who can't see this, the image is of what looks like the Rock'em Sock'em robots from back in the 70s. These, you knocked my block off. That commercial, but it has these image of these like stone people with like a Maori face pattern. Some people pronounce it Maori, but I was told when I was in New Zealand many years ago that it's actually pronounced Maori. But the words here are will to power, hostility, jealousy, stubbornness, aggression, fear, competitiveness, and controversy. Let me read you just a little bit from my I Ching book here. Conflict is fundamentally a clash of wills, and the clash arises first of all within each of the combatants. When an individual or group feels strongly about the rightness of an idea, a proposal, or a certain way of doing things, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture, where each vantage point offers a unique and valuable perspective. When opposing sides of a conflict get locked into their positions, both lose the perspective that is needed to come to a resolution. By looking within to identify your own investments in a conflict, you can learn much about yourself and your fears and vulnerabilities. By seeing them clearly, you gain the humility to forgive and be forgiven, and the strength to take responsibility for your weaknesses and compassion for the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of others. Another way of looking at this is when you have the yin element, and this is again, wherever it falls in your chart, yin in general, some of the positive characteristics of this are elegance, eloquence, very intelligent, sensitive, cultured, witty, really liking the finer things of life, beauty, looking good physically, looking good, having the nicer things. But what happens also with the yin metal energy is when it gets too hot, it can get more brittle, it can break, it can become vain, it can become a perfectionist. The perfectionism stuff can come out really high, and I know all about that. Pride, becoming overly sensitive. Yin metal people, often that energy think about this. When you heat up gold or silver, the heat actually does purify it. It removes it melts it so that you can then form it into other ways. But when it's in that liquid stage, it can take the form of whatever is around. That's why it's important to know and to notice if you become more reactive around other people versus somebody else. This is what a lot of empaths deal with, where you feel like you're absorbing and being influenced by the energies of everybody around you. If you are beginning to feel that, there's a couple of things that you can do. Obviously, number one, try to find something in nature to either lock eyes on. Maybe it's just a house plant. Maybe it's actually getting outside and going to ground yourself next to a tree. Maybe it's going to the garden center section of Walmart and literally sticking your fingers in some of the dirt in some of the plants. I mean, you girls got to do, a person has to do what a person has to do. Okay. When you need that, even just looking at nature pictures online will help to reconnect you with the earth and begin to calm down. Because of this absorption possibility, yin metal energy people can get a little moody and get a little cranky. And because they also don't want to deal with all of that, sometimes they can get very cold and calculating and even a little bit on the manipulative side of things. I'm looking here at some other stuff. And when all this happens, it's harder for that yin metal energy to handle pressure. So this is something that I want everybody to be aware of, that this energy is up this month. And then you combine that with the yang wood element of 2024, that yang wood dragon energy. Sometimes it can feel a little bit intense. But when you are able to reground and regain your focus, that ability to, that calculating ability that I was talking about, it can become a really big asset, because you can see, okay, I need to get from here to there. Oh, and we have to add this other piece in there. You can become a very, very strong tactical advisor, not only to yourself, but also to others. And yin metal is great in teams. So being able to find those who are in alignment is very helpful, especially because this goat energy, this is the 8th animal of the Chinese zodiac. So we're, again, talking about an energy that typically is more soft-spoken, a little more elegant, personable. It's Some people look at it that, they think of him as, very docile, very, very, very hospitable, kind of like that Southern belle, that Southern belle stereotype that just, oh my goodness, let me get you a glass of sweet tea. Would you like some, or would you prefer a mint julep? How can I, why don't you come over here, sit down, rest a while? Meanwhile, don't ever mistake that kindness for the nerves of steel, for that strength that is, that can be belied by that more gentle, laid back exterior. The compassion that the goat energy generally brings in, it can feel a little overwhelmed, especially when things get really, really heated up. And when that conflict energy is like, whoa. But remember too, goats, they will butt heads. They will not, they will not suffer fools. So, it's try to keep things calmed down. That is the watchword. There's a Chinese proverb that I have been relying a lot on, and that is the story of a farmer whose only son accidentally let the horse that they used to plow their fields out of the, it got out of the pen. All the villagers like, oh, bad luck. And the farmer's like, good luck, bad luck, who knows? Maybe so, maybe not. And then, the next day the horse comes back with a bunch of other wild horses, and suddenly he's got, an abundance of horses. And now all the villagers are going, oh, good luck. This is what good luck. And he's like, good luck, bad luck. Who can tell? Maybe so. Maybe not. The son then decides to try to break one of these new horses and gets bucked off and breaks his leg. Oh, bad luck. Farmer's going, I don't know, maybe. And then the military comes by and conscripts all of the healthy fighting age men, except for this farmer's son, because he's got a broken leg. So was that good luck? Was that bad luck? Who can tell? So conflict is where we all get to take that deep breath and look to see if we are getting caught up in a contagion of defensiveness, a contagion of anger or fear, and really pull ourselves back and take that look inside to see, well, where are we being led, and where are we being allowed ourselves? Where are we allowing ourselves to be led? Okay, so let's move on to the next one. The clarifying cards that I did this month, again, all three of them were in the lower trigram focus lines. So again, this is about inner work. We have to do the inner work in order to be able to know how to manage what's happening in the outer world. So the first one is one of the pure gua cards. This is the Joyous. It has the yin metal on the bottom and yin metal on the top. The image on this card is like a cloud forest with lotus blossoms floating in the clouds and three dragonflies flying around. And it's really quite lovely. And because it's line one, it's really about us, that the real innermost calling, pulling the joy out of ourselves at the deepest level. Because again, joy, first of all, that's an internal process. It's different than happiness. Happiness is fleeting. Joy lives constantly inside of us. We just have to be curious enough, courageous enough to let it out. The cards on this the words on this card are happiness, delight, interaction, open communication, goodwill, friendly persuasion, and self-expression. Now, I love this word. It's like, when your cup is overflowing, why try to contain it? Feel free to feel good and to spread the goodwill around. There is great pleasure to be had now by sharing your good feelings and supporting others. There's an opportunity to magnify a winning situation, and there is support for whatever you hope to accomplish, and your positivity can have a strengthening, vitalizing influence on others. So don't limit your vision or withhold your expressions of goodwill, as this is the time for you realizing your long-held dreams. Let's see, the opening in trust is more than enough to stimulate joy. A spirit of trust promotes camaraderie and equality. To communicate openly and listen willingly to the expressions of others sets an uplifting tone. We always feel liberated when our contribution is acknowledged. Hear what those around you have to say and leave room for their individual idiosyncrasies, as well as your own. Avoid trying to manipulate the proceedings by forcing your opinion on others, and don't be intimidated by joyousness. It's not something to be embarrassed about. So let's see. Also, joyousness is not naivete. It is the outward expression of a free spirit, of innocence and purity, of the inner smile. It is not dependent on external circumstances. It's, again, as I mentioned, it really does come from within. And now the focus line number one, the honing in on the real thing here, says joy that is nourished from within liberates the heart. You can experience it as a sweet serenity and harmony with others. There are so many opportunities for people to be going on vacations, seeing family, getting together with old friends. I don't care what your thought process is on external circumstances right now. There's always room for joy. So bring that in. And of course, I have to plug my joy water. I do have that spray that helps. It's a room spray. It helps to neutralize the energy of a space as well as purify it and then re-energize it with joy. It comes in both the room spray and Epsom salts. So if you would like to know more about how to get some, I will put a link in the notes. Now, the second card clarifying card that I drew is called Progress. It's number 35. And on the bottom trigram is Kun, which is Yin, earth. And then the top trigram is Li, which is the fire trigram. This focus line is 3. So this is really about that transition point. This is about, okay, you've had that time, you've done your internal work, you've figured out how to find joy, how to extract, the silver lining in the darkest clouds. And this is now about taking that vitality and moving it forward into the world. The words on this card are advancement, gaining recognition, appreciation, achievements, acceleration, steady gains, and increased clarity. The image on this card is that of, looks like an Indian man with a sari, like a sarong type pants and some type of a headscarf, about to do some type of a pirouette. The rest of the information on this is there's an old saying that in the bright light of day, all things become known. We've had this card come up before. And so what this says to me is we really are about to get a lot more clarity on, on a lot of different things. Especially, think about the summertime. It is the bright light of day. Now, here in Texas, a lot of us end up spending a great deal of time indoors because it's just very, very hot and very humid. And when it is the bright light of day, it's also the scorching time of day. So you cannot help but see what is there. This talks a lot about the ego and how hard it is to, you want to enjoy the moment of achievement, but not to get complacent. It's being able to notice what is the inconsequential and what is the like if you've been working towards something for a while and you might start to get a little tired, like, oh, I don't know, I don't feel like I've made enough progress. But you often that's when you lose the momentum right before you actually achieve what you're going for. So line 3 says progress is not always best accomplished by individual pilgrims. Sometimes it takes part of a group or being part of a group to reach the place where you intend to go. If you're naturally a loner, consider joining with others now and seeing how far it takes you. If you're naturally a team player, now's your time to shine. So again, progress. I will go ahead and add on, it's often about progress and not perfection. Like, as someone who in the Western astrology world has a Virgo sun and a Virgo rising, I really do like a lot of perfection. I want to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and everything is lined up in beautiful structure. And that tendency towards OCD is something that has been a constant reminder in my head that life is never like that. Life is always messy. That's why in feng shui, again, piles are not the problem. The stagnation of piles is where the challenge is, because if you're a horizontal filer like I am, I like to see and touch and know what is right there. But I try to clean things up. And when the piles accumulate, that's when I know, ooh, let's see, what part of my house is that pile in? Ah, yes, it's over in that particular sector. That goes with this direction, and that direction governs this part of life. Oh, you know what? I'm actually out of balance in that part of life. You clean up the pile, that starts to shift. That's why decluttering has such an amazing effect on your life. It's just, there you go. Okay. It's a little tangent there. Yes, and I do uh, remote feng shui consultations. So the last focus card is a new one that we haven't had. I don't believe I've ever drawn this one. So this is really a good one. It's called Following. And the trigram on this one, on the bottom here, the bottom trigram is Zhen, which is yang wood. The top trigram, again, is Dui, yin metal. So we've got kind of the inverse of what's happening with this month energy and the year energy, because we have the yin metal on the top and the yang wood on the bottom. Following is card number 17. It shows, looks like 4 women, one who appears to have some type of a headdress on, with 3 other women following behind her. This card talks about loyalty, adaptability, cooperation, trust, reliability, sensitivity to others, service, and receiving guidance. The old I Ching texts counsel that in order to lead, one must know how to follow. That seems like a kind of a duh statement, but really, one cannot be a leader if you don't have followers. And it's important to notice who you're being drawn to. What happens more frequently these days is that we see leaders who are exploiting people for their own ends, and followers following somebody because they're unwilling to take responsibility for their own lives. Gathering followers for the sake of expanding one's own personal power and influence is self-aggrandizement of the worst kind. It is parasitic to prey on others in order to fulfill one's own ambitions. Manipulating people in order to force their compliance creates an undercurrent of mistrust that eventually undermines any good intentions. On the other side of the coin, is vital to stretch beyond the known in order to grow and to realize our fullest potential. And finding a good role model can often give us the courage we need to make us stretch, and it doesn't matter how old you are. So here's the piece that, how do you know if the group that you are following, if the leader that you are following is, are you doing that because it's something that's feeding your own needs? Or is it because you are being guided, have that inner guidance to do it? That's a tough one. Because sometimes if you are having to constantly buy certain things or look a certain way or chant the same chants, that's a way of having to constantly work up the enthusiasm to stay being a follower, to stay in the group. If, however, you are being guidance, having that guidance, if you're receiving, if it's just kind of coming in almost as a download, like, well, of course this person's right. There's less of that outward boisterousness, that outward performance, I guess, if you will, that says, I have to do this. you might still want to do that. I have a lot of, I've got a number of friends who they just really like wearing the accoutrement of whatever group they're part of, because it's a way of recognizing, kindred spirits. But it's not a requirement, if you know what I mean. Okay, so line 3 says, following can mean joining another on the path towards yourself. Loved ones and friends can be disturbed by what they perceive as a preoccupation with something they don't understand. They can become angry or fearful at what seems to them to be your withdrawal from, quote, the way things used to be, end quote. There will probably be points at which your principles and the choices you make will be challenged, but standing your ground will bring benefits far beyond any apparent losses you may face as a consequence. This is part of a much larger sea change that I'm reading about. What I often see from people who leave religions, they realize that, oh, but if I leave this, if I want to leave this religious belief system, I'm also losing everything else that wraps around with it. If they want to leave this other, this is especially in cults, where it's a cult of personality. It is like one person who is the be all end all of that group. There's often a lot of intimidation that goes along with, no, you can't do this. I've had stories of heard stories of having to get, people get deprogrammed literally to finally shake off that trance that happens. You'll notice it when you start talking to people. You could have a great, perfectly normal conversation with someone about, it could be benign weather, gardening tips or whatever. And then if the conversation veers into this other place, you'll notice this slightly glazed look that comes over them. And that's when the program of, I must say these things, I must do these things, I must believe this way because this is the program. And that program includes that inclusion, that exclusivity, that I'm wanted. They know me, they want to know me. Following is important. And I just invite everyone listening to take a look at what you're following. Maybe it's content creators. Maybe it's different networking groups that you're a part of. Maybe it's something much as big as, a belief system, a political idea, a ideology, a eating style. Reevaluation on a regular basis keeps everyone honest. And this month is the perfect month for that, because that conflict energy is already there. That reevaluation energy is already there. Let's take this opportunity for this month of July, the month that goes from July 6th through August 6th. Use that conflict energy to your fullest, because there, especially for those who have ox and dog in their Chinese astrology charts, whichever of the 4 pillars it comes into, this is an absolutely ideal month for you to quit those bad habits, to make that change that you've been wanting to make. Even if it feels really hard, this is the month to do it. So don't be afraid of conflict. Don't be afraid of those having the hard conversations, look for the helpers, and remember, find that joy within. I hope you have a marvelous July, and happy 4th of July as we switch right over. But um, if you are not in the United States, the 4th of July is just another normal day for you guys, but it's always been a special time, except for those animal lovers and whose dogs freak out, and for the veterans who don't really appreciate all the explosions. So, be kind, pay attention to your surroundings, and do your best to not invite the fire department over. Have a great day and a great month.